From ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 in Southern California. This is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgenson.
Welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio here on ABC News and podcasts and iTunes and all those places wherever you're listening. Want to welcome a special guest today, Dana Derricks. If you have not heard of Dana, you're living under a goatless rock. So welcome out to the show, Dana. What is the one thing everyone needs to know about you?
Well, thank you for having me, man. Super excited to be here. I think the one thing that everybody should know about me is that I have a very big passion for a very special animal, and that is a goat. So I have goats of my own, very passionate about them. Would love to spread the love of goats to you all today.
Awesome. Now, outside of goats, you're a high-level implementing marketer, right? You get stuff done. You don't just talk. Let's go back to like the beginnings. Did you grow up in like an entrepreneurial world? Were you born an entrepreneur, or when did you start realizing that marketing and entrepreneurship were in your blood?
So I love that question. I grew up on a dairy farm. I'm a 12th generation farmer, which is like as far back as you can even trace it, right?
Yeah, that's like Adam, and then you're
yeah. Like Adam, he was a farmer, and then he had a kid. So so I grew up like doing farm chores and stuff. And to be honest, like as a kid, like as you can imagine, like throwing hay bales around, like because farms are not the way they are. Like it wasn't like they are now, where you have big machines to do everything. Like you had to throw hay bales, and like I can remember as a kid how much I hated that. And I just thought to myself, like, all right, I can make $40 pitching hay for the next 6 hours, or I can like go on the internet and figure out how. Like I heard of people were making money on the internet. So I'm like, dude, I got to figure out a better way than this, like pitching hay. So I started to, and then I just kind of like got lost in it, and just this obsessive like thought of like being able to make money on the internet kind of took over.
Yeah. I often say there is a very fine line between lazy and efficient. And I think that sometimes that same line is what leads us to innovation, right? Like, I don't want to pitch hay every day for $40. Like, what can I do differently? And some people could say, man, this kid's lazy, but you're innovating and creating and growing and just working your brain instead of your fingers. So what was your first thing? Like, what did you do first?
So my uncle, I was like young too, like I was like 10-year-old kid. So my uncle was a big eBay seller. eBay was pretty big at the time, or getting big. And so he started showing me the ropes of it. I don't know. I was just curious. So then I started listing stuff on eBay and helping him sell more stuff. And then I got like really into it. So then I got into like selling baseball cards, going to garage sales, selling stuff. So it was eBay for me. And then eBay turned into like, I was then like building computers and selling computers on eBay. And then it got into Craigslist, and I was buying cars and flipping cars, and it just kept up in the ante.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are all awesome, but those are very much like finding ways to get creative and make money online. And I have a real similar journey in just figuring out things to kind of flip, but it's hard to scale those things and turn systems around those things and a brand around those things. How did you like leverage that into something that was kind of your first thing where you realized, man, this isn't just making quick money, this is more of a business?
So a big part of me, for those that know me, like, I played football as a kid growing up, because I grew up in a tiny town. We had nothing better to do, play football. So my first actual like product and brand that I created was you can't make this stuff up, man. So if you're familiar with like horses and cattle and stuff, there's this product. I wish I would have had some on me, but it's called cattle wrap. And what happens is when you shave their hooves, or like they have a ankle or hoof infection or something, or a sore, you'll wrap it. It's like this, it's kind of like latex sort of, and you'll wrap their hoof with it. And it comes in all sorts of different colors. And now I was a football player forever. And,
right.
You might see where I'm going here.
Yep.
So like the cleats that we wear when we play football or soccer or whatever, they get beat up and they get destroyed, and they're expensive, and like they get just by the end of the year they're shot, right? And I'm like thinking, there's got to be a product, like there's a product for that, and there is. It's called spatting tape. Now, what spatting tape is, though, is it's essentially like you're probably familiar with like athletic tape,
Yep.
right? It's like stiff stuff that you would tape your wrist or whatever with. Yeah. And so essentially spatting tape, the stuff to cover and protect your cleats and stuff, was that stiff athletic style tape. And it only came in one color, and that was black. So it was like, wow, I don't need to tape my ankles. I just want to protect my cleats. And then I'm like, I've got this cattle wrap that comes in a dozen different colors, and it's stretchy so it doesn't restrict my ankles, and it'll cover my cleats just the same. So then boom, and then entrepreneurial Dana goes on GoDaddy and finds out that the domain name spattingtape.com is ding, ding, ding available.
Wow.
So he buys it. Yeah. And I started my first e-com business by literally, I would go to Fleet Farm, buy the cattle wrap. Like as I would clear out the shelf, I'd buy it for $2 a roll, and then I'd sell it for $12 a roll. And it got to the point where I had to find the supplier, and they're out of Iowa, and I had to call them, and I had to like, because I called so much, they started questioning me, and I had to tell them I was a vet. They wanted to stop selling it to me. But yeah,
that's funny. So I love that kind of story. Like so were you in high school during this time?
Yeah, totally. Like I had all the kids on our team, all like half the other teams were like buying it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so you literally saw a problem that was like in your world, and, but then you didn't just solve it for you saw the entrepreneurial opportunity in it. As a high schooler, what kind of money was that making?
So I would probably make like maybe a couple grand a month, something like that. For me was huge.
Yeah. A high schooler making like the US average income. That's all right. Yeah. You're crushing it. You got money to go to prom. You got money to do whatever you want. Right. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. Where'd you go from there? Like, did you just keep doing that and keep scaling that up? Do you still have that, or did you move on?
So funny story. Yeah. So, I got into college, and I had to like start really focusing, because I ended up getting a football scholarship. That's how like serious I was. Okay. And, so I was running it. What's that?
Where'd you play?
I started my career up at Division II school in Minnesota, University of Minnesota, Crookston. Okay. And so yeah, I was selling this stuff out of my dorm room. And I remember, I don't know if they do this anymore, but they didn't want to pair the football players together because it was like a dangerous combination, like a lethal. So we get paired with just random students that aren't athletes.
Right.
So I remember this poor kid, man, our dorm room was so full of boxes and supplies and stuff, and it got really out of control. And I think he ended up turning me in, because like the RAs came down and said, you can't live here, man, if you're doing this. So I had to like shut it down, and I ended up selling it. So that was the first business I ever sold.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I sold it to focus on school and football and stuff. And then, kind of funny, a couple of years ago, I wanted to just check in on it to see what was going on. And the guy that bought it apparently abandoned it. And so I got the domain name back. Isn't that awesome?
I love that kind of stuff, because it's like, and now so much more. I mean, and you understood, like, you can leverage the crap out of that and not have to be shipping it out of your dorm room anymore. So that's
right.
Awesome.
I should probably outsource that part. Yeah.
Yeah, probably have somebody doing that. So I know, like, I don't know you really well, which is why I'm grateful that you're here and appreciate you coming on the show. I know we have a lot of mutual friends. What are your big passions now? Like, I know you've written a ton of books. What are your big projects, and like, what do you do now?
So I'm really, really passionate about something right now, that was the missing piece to my business. Even though I did well, like I didn't start doing really, really well until a couple of years ago, when I got really intentional about this, and it's called the Dream 100. So I know you're familiar with that, but, for anybody that's not, I would say, check out Chet Holmes's book. It's called The Ultimate Sales Machine. I got a copy somewhere, but it's messy. But, anyway, basically, the gist of it is, Chet was he worked for a magazine, and he was in charge of selling advertising, and the magazine was like in last place. They were not doing well, so he just wrote down a list of his Dream 100 clients he'd want to sell ads to, relentlessly pursued them for 2 years, and took them from last to like top 3. It was a huge, amazing thing. So that's what I've been like, taking what he invented and just going really deep on it and helping others do the same, and it's like blown everything up.
One thing I've been fascinated with the Dream 100 is when I'm working on it or when I'm helping a client work on it, one of the things I've realized is if they can't define their Dream 100, they're probably not clear on their business. And it's this weird like exercise of realizing, oh, I don't even know who I'm going after, or I don't know who has my audience, right? Do you believe kind of like there's two Dream 100s, like there's a Dream 100 customers and then like the Dream 100 like influencers? Do you kind of see that two sides, or yeah?
Totally. Yep. 100%. So and some people will use both at once. Like me personally, I use both at once. So we call it one-to-one. So that's it, like the Chet Holmes style. If you're going to go after your end client, that's your one-to-one versus one-to-many. This is kind of your Russell Brunson style. Go after your people that you want to promote your stuff. So I use both, but you can certainly might only use one or the other.
And I think a lot of that depends on the type of business, right? If you're in a high ticket service business where a single client has massive value, but Russell selling ClickFunnels, right? He's got to reach people that can reach others, because him getting one more account, he won't even notice it. But so you're using the Dream 100, and I'm super stoked about that. My book hasn't shown up yet, I don't think, unless but I've ordered it. So I've ordered it. Where can other people learn about it?
So I do have a copy of it. I wish I could just teleport this to you somehow, but here it is, Dream 100 book. I wrote it. Russell wrote the forward to it. It's unbelievable. But yeah, so
and it's super cheap, right?
Yeah, it's only $2,000 a copy. So by the way, yeah, I sell books for more than most people do, but it's worth it, because if you think about like your Dream 100, like let's say that you're going to go one-to-one approach, right? Let's say that you, I don't know, have a service or a product that's worth, I don't know, $1,000, or even over time, maybe 5-10 grand.
Sure.
Like just landing one person is like worth way more than the $2,000, or one-to-many. Holy crap. Like what's a potential influencer Dream 100 affiliate worth? Tens of thousands, if not hundreds or millions over time.
Right.
So even at $2,000, I mean, it's,
I was just talking with a friend who told me about one of her clients. They do really high-end silk screen limited edition prints for like posters for, Rolling Stones or Blink 182, right? They do these really high-end posters. Anyways, they had an artist who had been like struggling, and he got picked up by one group to do one poster. Well, when they published that one poster that guy did, his entire business took off. Because now all of that group's fans became fans of his through extension, and he's been like busy ever since, right? And so that concept of one-to-many, the right one, is so huge. And yet I agree, like Russell included as the lost chapter in .com secrets, and I think I just think it's like the big missing piece for a lot of people. So you said it was the missing piece for you. What business were you working on where when you just first plugged that in, you saw the results?
Yeah. So what most people find too is when they start figuring out what the Dream 100 is, they've been doing it without knowing. And they think back and holy crap, like that's what really worked. Like I need to do more of that. And it's like, where's this been all my life? And I'm like, I know, like me too. So the moment that it was like the aha for me, where it's like, I need to write a book on this because it's so good, was I was working as a freelance copywriter. So I was doing writing projects for clients, and I started getting really burnt out from it because I was just trading time for dollars and stuff.
Yep.
And so I wanted to package what I was doing into a more scalable sort of deliverable. So I took what I was delivering and put it into a book instead of me doing it. I was going to teach them how to do it. And anyway, so I wanted to sell it with a webinar. So I create this webinar, and I get all excited because I finish the webinar, and then I go and grab some Facebook traffic and run ads to it. And then I go and do the webinar, and I'm excited, and then it tanks. No sales. Yeah, right. It's horrible. So then I'm like, all right, I got to try this again. And so I went twice as hard. I bought twice as many ads, and I got twice as many people on, and I ran it again. I'm all excited, and then bam, it tanks again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like, I was like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I was pretty upset. Like, I thought like for a second there, I'm like, dude, this Russell guy is full of crap. Like, this doesn't work. Like,
well, this is the point where most people would stop. Actually, after the first one, they'd be like, God, webinars aren't good. Facebook traffic's horrible. Right. It's so okay.
Exactly.
But
This
you
is all
obviously did it.
scam.
You did two rounds and then breath. What
I'm too
happened next?
stubborn.
Yeah.
The farmer in me wouldn't let me quit. So I knew, though, I had to change something. Like Einstein would be thinking I'm insane if I kept trying the same thing. So I changed one thing. I'm like, I've got a guy in my network that I know has a list of people that would be interested in this, right? So I'm like, and he's got a pretty big following. So I'm like, hey, man, I get him on the phone or whatever, and I'm like, hey, man, I got this awesome webinar. Like, you want to convert it or you want to promote it? And he's like, sure. I'm like, oh, crap. He said, yes, we're going to have to do this now. Yep. So anyway, fast forward, we do the webinar, and he brings a lot of traffic. And the beauty is I didn't have to pay for the traffic, but we ended up doing 6 figures on that webinar. And the amazing thing, it was the same exact webinar. I didn't change anything.
Just the source of the content, like so
exactly.
the pre-frame that the people came into.
Yep.
Totally different. Wow.
Because it's like, think of anybody that you know, like, and trust. If they tell you to go do something, you're way more likely to do it than if it's just a cold Facebook ad.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome, and like the perfect example, right, of how that works. So I want to make sure, if people want to learn more about that book and that concept. I mean, you gave them Chet Holmes's book, which I think is great, but if they wanted your book, where would they go?
So they can go to they can click the link below.
Okay, yeah, I'll add the link. That's perfect. So if you're watching, or if you click the link in the podcast or whatever, otherwise, go to DanaDerricks.com. You can find information from Dana there, and he can update some links.
Yeah, the reason sorry to put you put it on blast, but what happens is I share a link and then it goes crazy and we run out of books.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Well, that's one reason why the $2,000. What you've written other books, right? Like, you're one of those guys that I think when you decide to do something, you do it quickly. So what are the other books you've written, and like, how does that fit into like you as an entrepreneur? How is that important for you?
So I've written 6 in my day, which is weird because I'm a farmer and I look like I can't even really read or write. But so for me, it's sort of like just a way that I want to continue and grow and serve people, because the feedback I get from my books is so tremendous and humbling that like I feel like I have more to give. And I hope like if I could inspire somebody out there to think like just think about that for a second, because I didn't always feel this way about myself and my own like what I have to offer. But if you can just start putting yourself out there and just serving people and putting their needs before yours, like, do you want to make money? Of course. But like, you're going to make way more money if you can go get other people results with whatever you do. So that was just, I guess it's just this burning desire where I transitioned my focus from just all about me and making money in my business to like, how can I go serve others and get as much value into their hands as possible?
Yeah, I've heard some different theories on why that concept works. One, I think just being a cool person means cool things happen, right? And then there's some more like philosophical things where you create a reciprocity vacuum and all these kind of things. And whatever the actual reason is, I think it's also just a good way to do it. If you're out there looking to how you can add value before you try to extract value, I think you're just going to feel better, right? Let alone things working better. So you've written all these books. You've got, according to the image behind you, you got the Derricks group, right? You got some big stuff. What big things are happening for you in 2018?
Wow. So I'm going all in on the Dream 100. I'm like, so I got 2 things going on. I'm going to shout from the rooftops, the Dream 100 to everybody I can, because everybody needs to check this out and they need to do it. Cause this is like, for some reason, like, when people think traffic, they think Facebook ads or they think like paid ads. Like, it's like, no. Dream 100, like Dream 100 first. Okay. Right. Go get free customers instead. Like, it's just so much easier. So I'll be speaking at Funnel Hacking Live here in a couple of weeks, to spread that message. So I got that going on. And then I got another thing going on where, apparently after writing 6 books, and selling them for hundreds, if not thousands per copy, I had many people tell me, Dana, you need to help other people do the same. And then I started doing research and realized that the publishing industry is like book wise is all messed up. There's way too many books being published, way not enough people reading them, and it's just saturated, and authors are getting like just eaten up and spit out. So I've got another book, and that it's called High Ticket Book Secrets, which basically shows people how to publish their books for what they're worth and bypass all the middlemen. So that's another thing I'm passionate about, is I want to help a bunch of authors take the power back into their hands and do books the right way. So those two things, 2018.
That's good. And I think 2 is good. I think a lot of some people I know, myself included, end up being like 10 things. So 2 is good, right? And it's hard for some of us to get down to 1, but 2 is money. That's a good spot.
Okay.
What are some, like, we've talked about all these awesome highlights, right? But like, what are some of the dark times? Like, what are some of the challenges you've had to face in this journey of yours?
Well, I mean, I love that question. So what people don't see, so people see like my successes. What they don't see is my 6 years of like struggling, like not knowing if I'm going to be able to pay my rent, and then like having a success and then getting hit in the gut, right? Like even like my webinar, like I'll be full disclosure, like that third webinar I did 6 figures on, and then I broke my merchant account, right? So I had a nightmare where my merchant wouldn't process all the sales. So I had to go and they refunded a bunch of people, and like it was just like, so I guess my like
Even can hurt sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Right. So what happens, I tell people, like, I could tell you a billion horror stories, but like, just know this, like, as you continue to progress and just get to where you want to be, problems aren't going to go away. They just change.
Right.
They become different, and sometimes good. Like I could argue that's a good problem. I made too much money and my merchant got mad. Right.
Yeah. And that I think does come down to the choice that you make on how you perceive your challenges or your obstacles, right?
Totally.
Like the obstacle is the way, or all those kind of things. Right. And I think that's what really defines an entrepreneur as someone who's just out there trying it, is they're willing to see each challenge as an opportunity to get better or to improve. The merchant account thing is something that every entrepreneur has dealt with at least once. And if they haven't, it's on its way. Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just had it like last month. I had a merchant account shut down for one because of a MasterCard change industry wide. A ton of accounts got closed. And so they're holding like 5 figures of my money just in an account somewhere. And I'm like, I would love to have that. And you know, I'll get it in 6 months.
Yeah.
But it's how it goes. You know,
how am I supposed to pay my bills? I don't know. Not my problem. Right.
Yeah. They don't care. And I get it. And so, but the first time that happened, like learning that was brutal. Now you just know it's part of the game, and you come up with alternatives. So I wanted to ask you about, let's see, I got something here. You got GoatCon 2018 coming up, right? So isn't this your next big, I thought this was your next big event. Maybe I was wrong. It's not.
I think I might have to now. Do you want to speak at it?
Yeah, heck yeah, I'll come out and speak.
You have to hold the goat though.
Absolutely.
The whole time. Okay.
I want one of those ones though that if you scare them, they just stiffen up and fall over.
The fainting goats. Yeah.
So, anyways, but so to me, all of this stuff, all of entrepreneurship and marketing and everything is about building the life that you want, as opposed to just reacting and receiving what's necessarily just thrown at you. What's one major thing like on your bucket list, maybe not business related, that you want to do this year just because life is worth living?
Man, that's so cool. I wanna, this isn't like too crazy exciting, I guess.
That's okay.
It's something like that. So I have a kid, my first kid on the way, coming in July. Yeah. Hopefully little mini farmer that'll help me with chores. Right. And I think, so what I would be proud of this year is if I could create like an environment for him or her, him,
right? I see.
to thrive in. Okay. So that means like my business crazy world I live in, that's one thing, but I need to be able to like shut that off and then be able to go be an awesome like dad too, So that would be my thing for this year.
I'm always a little bit jealous of people that get like a decade of entrepreneurship under their belt before they're starting their family. I mean, I started my family really young, and so like I joke that I'm like Russell Brunson's JV version, because like we wrestled at the same time, but I was at a junior college and he was at the big school, and like, but we're the same age, and he just does everything 10 levels up. But I've got 4 kids, and to try to balance that is hard. And so, if there is some advice I could give you, it's that ignore the concept of work-life balance, right? It's about mix. Find ways to just integrate your life on both sides. And I think that's what you'll do to find that the best way to make it thrive is just the parts you don't want to mix is the stress, right? Don't bring home the stress, but bring home the involve your family and everything. And I think that's probably what you were going to do already, but that's awesome. It can be awesome. And I mean, kids are great, man. So thanks, congrats on that. I'm sure there's gonna be a dozen more behind it. And so
thank you. Yeah. Well, now I know whose brain to pick.
Yeah. There's a bunch of, there's a lot of dads as entrepreneurs, and it's all of us just figuring it out and being like, hey, that sucked. Just like every other part of business, right?
Yep.
What worked, what didn't, share it all. We need a Dream 100 concept for like parenting. Like, all right, I need to call, what nanny do I call now to help?
A really good Rolodex, right? Yeah.
But kind of a side note that is true though, is like we ask for advice in so many parts of our life, but then there's other parts of our life that we sometimes get closed off. And I think that's interesting. Like, we don't ask our friends that if they're really good at something, like, let's ask them, like, hey, how did you do that? What, it may come natural to you. Yeah. Help me understand it. And that can be in any part of life. So as we get here kind of close to the end of the show and wrapping things up, I know you're going to be speaking at Funnel Hacking Live. A bunch of my listeners will be there. I'll be there. So I'll look forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
What people can go to Dana Derricks, and I'll have links in everywhere that this gets posted. But what's if you're shouting on the rooftops, you've got that one message that people want to connect with Dana Derricks. Shout.
So if there's one bit of it, like one nugget I could give you guys right now to take home and help you with your business, it would be to figure out pinpoint who is in your existing network that you could have them help you to topple over the biggest domino possible. So I'm not saying that you have to say, hey, can you do this for me? But I'm saying for me, it was, okay, Facebook ads didn't work. What's the biggest domino I need? I need to be able to sell my product, my book. All right. So I was like, okay, who in my network can help me sell this book? I'm like, oh, bing, ding, 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 this guy. Right. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't even have to be sales related. I don't care. It could be building a team. It could be whatever you're at. You can find one person right now that's already in your network that can help you topple that giant domino. That'll be huge.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for coming out, Dana. For you out there listening in the podcast and radio world, we appreciate you. And now it's your turn. Go out and do something. Thank you for tuning into BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with myself, your host, Tyler Jorgenson. And I wanted to offer you a special gift. So if you go to bizninja.com/dreamline, I'm going to give you a calculator that will allow you to calculate what your ideal target daily income is in order to live the life that you dream of. See, to me, life in business is all here just so that we can create the lifestyle that we want. So if you're not doing that, probably because you don't know the exact things that you need to put in place to make it happen. It all starts with beginning with the end in mind. So create your dream line and put your dreams on a timeline at bizninja.com/dreamline.
Thank you for listening to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with Tyler Jorgenson. Please make sure to subscribe so you're first to hear new interviews and episodes. If you found this podcast to be valuable, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to visit our online dojo at bizninja.com to claim your reward for listening to the show.